He was a brilliant manipulator, not just of vulnerable girls and women.
That I was going to be alone with him. I thought I was going to die.
And women. He was a brilliant manipulator of powerful men.
On my own island, I can think the thoughts I want to think. I can do the work I want to do. I have freedom to explore as I see fit.
Jeffrey Epstein's case is like a never-ending nightmare. Ever since his conviction, the feds have been uncovering new, gut-wrenching evidence against him. It's like every day there's a new bombshell. From Donald Trump to Bill Clinton, you name a celebrity, and odds are their name is tangled up in this mess with Epstein. And now reports are coming in about the latest raid on his house, where the feds found even more shocking footage. It's full of eerie stuff that exposes more big names. The truth and the people involved will leave you absolutely floored.
Is using these establishment nightclubs, bars as a front for what he's really doing.
So there's talk about this billionaire who might be mixed up in the same sick stuff Epstein was doing with young girls. Word is, this girl has seen it all. The whole ugly truth about what went down at Epstein's parties.
Any other woman there, very young, possibly underage, most likely. And she said this was so normalized. This was in the middle of the day and many old men were there.
And how does she know? Listen to it by yourself.
After drinks, he takes her back to the house that she presumes is his, and he's gonna run down on her responsibilities. This is where she gets.
Yes, you heard it right. She's a victim herself of Epstein's gruesome, explicit actions. Maybe she lived through the horror or saw everything firsthand. And if you look at the recent raid on his house, the weird and eerie photos of him with Ghislaine Maxwell will send chills down your spine. And if he has a photo with Maxwell, just guess how much of an offender he will be. But why did he become friends with Maxwell and then boyfriend? Or did he even E her as well? That's just another part of the story. But this is just one incident. A video has surfaced on social media appearing to show the inside of one of Jeffrey Epstein's properties. Among what one can spot in the eerie medical equipment, weird paintings and baby powder, one can also see strange blueprints, a statue depicting a blindfolded archer, and photos of Epstein himself. The video surfaced shortly after a Florida judge ordered the release of graphic transcripts from the state's 2006 prosecution of the convicted P. The documents, comprising nearly 200 pages, have details of Epstein's crimes. There are first-hand accounts from victims, as well as information about payoffs to minor victims. Circuit Judge Luis Delgado on Monday, July 1st, ordered that the 16-year-old documents be released, saying, "Details in the record will be outrageous to decent people." The testimony taken by the grand jury concerns activity ranging from grossly unacceptable to R. All of the conduct at issue is S, deviant, disgusting, and criminal, Delgado wrote. The judge referred to Epstein as the most infamous P in American history, adding that the leniency of the state in the case has been the subject of much anger and has at times diminished the public's perception of the criminal justice system. Moreover, he hired men to monitor what was happening in his New York mansion from a CCTV control room and provided his victims with car services and cell phones so he could track their movements, according to a new lawsuit filed by two accusers in Manhattan federal court.
I realize what I am. I'm very comfortable in my own skin. What I'm really free to do is I'm free to follow my own personality.
To ensure the women's silence, Epstein and his enablers also gathered dirt to use against them and threatened anyone who might cooperate with police. And they paid the victims hundreds of dollars in hush money after the perverted financier aided them, or they recruited other young women and girls into the scheme. All of this would not be possible, the lawsuit says, without Epstein's right-hand men. His longtime personal lawyer, Indyke, and accountant Richard Kahn, who've long denied any wrongdoing in connection with their former boss. Danielle Bensky and another victim referred to as Jane Doe 3 are suing Indyke and Kahn, accusing them of advancing the late S offender's cult-like T network for more than a decade. Indyke joined Epstein's inner circle in 1995, while Kahn arrived around 2005, the complaint says. The Epstein Enterprise would not have existed for the duration it did, and at its scope and scale, without the collaboration and support of others, the legal filing states. No one, except perhaps Ghislaine Maxwell, was as essential and central to Epstein's operation as these defendants. The lawsuit seeks class action status and comes on the heels of two multi-million-dollar settlements from JP Morgan and Deutsche Bank, which victims sued in late 2022 for providing the financial mechanisms for Epstein's ST ring.
Thousands of pages of court documents tied to the late financier and convicted offender Jeffrey Epstein have been made public as part of a settled lawsuit involving one of his victims.
As the Daily Beast reported, Kahn and Indyke served as co-executors of Epstein's estate and have shunned interviews with the press, keeping a low profile and avoiding social media. In 2020, one source told us that Indyke was plucked out of obscurity by Epstein, and if he had a life outside of Epstein, it was a very private life. Meanwhile, another insider connected to Kahn claimed, Richard worked out of the office. Did Epstein appear at those offices? Yes. Did Richard see any of the activities that were the focus of press attention? No. But what leaves the netizens even more disturbed is that feds already knew he is this kind of a person and still never sped up in the case. And guess what rumors suggest that Diddy is the feds, and to save himself, he is just giving tips to feds. Epstein bragged about his connections to powerful people, on one occasion telling her he was on the phone with actor Kevin Spacey. But the new lawsuit says Indyke and Kahn were well aware of Epstein's predations and accuses them of aiding, abetting, and facilitating his battery and obstructing the government's enforcement of the T Victims Protection Act. Knowing that they would earn millions of dollars in exchange for facilitating Epstein's SE and T, Indyke and Kahn chose money and power over following the law, the complaint alleges. It adds that the men intentionally concealed the extent of their personal involvement in the ST venture, including specific false denials of their role in the Epstein Enterprise, making themselves out to be mere outside advisors to Epstein. The lawsuit sheds light on two more victims and the inner workings of the T operation. Epstein and his lawyers would gather information about the girls to use against them if they ever disobeyed him, the complaint says. His homes were also under constant surveillance, and his New York mansion had a room in which men that Epstein hired monitored what was happening in the home. Over the years, victims including Mariah Farmer and Jennifer Arauz have spoken out about Epstein's surveillance system, with Arauz describing it in a lawsuit. Inside the front door, there were many security cameras pointing in all directions. On little TVs, Miss Arauz could actually see herself on the camera walking inside. Bensky was an aspiring dancer in 2004 when a woman recruited her to give Epstein a massage for $300, and his enablers encouraged her to return to his New York home. Having been in awe of Epstein's mansion and Epstein's wealth and power, Bensky was terrified of what would happen to her if she refused, the complaint says. Epstein bragged about his connections to powerful people, on one occasion telling her he was on the phone with actor Kevin Spacey. Epstein also told Bensky that he had friends in high places, but he knew how they liked to party, so they would never betray him, the lawsuit alleges. Jane Doe 3, a citizen of the European Union who used a pseudonym for her safety, alleges Epstein flew her to New York and kept her at one of his apartments at 301 East 66th Street. In 2014, Epstein lured Jane Doe 3 to travel with him to several locations where either he or Ghislaine Maxwell had homes, the complaint states. David Boies, the victim's attorney, said, as detailed in the complaint, defendants Indyke and Kahn received millions of dollars from Epstein and his entities. In exchange, they provided the cash necessary to make Epstein's ST work, hid what was going on behind a maze of corporate shells, structured Epstein's financial transactions to conceal their real purpose, and arranged sham same-sex marriages to fraudulently provide a basis for keeping victims from Europe in this country. For their part, Indyke and Kahn say they were extraordinarily surprised and disappointed by last week's filing by the Boies Schiller firm. Weiner added that it was Indyke and Kahn who established the first ever victim compensation program by an estate, a widely acclaimed procedure through which the estate paid out more than $121 million to 135 women and resolved claims on behalf of the estate brought by 50 other women who either did not participate in that compensation program or sought more than they were awarded. According to the lawsuit, Indyke and Kahn helped set up Epstein's complex financial infrastructure, which included dozens of bank accounts across multiple banks linked to corporate entities with no legitimate business purpose. They also played a role in creating and managing some of Epstein's sham entities, such as his purported nonprofits, the CoUQ Foundation and Gratitude America Limited. The lawsuit alleges that these men ensured Epstein's access to cash by personally withdrawing or arranging the withdrawal of thousands of dollars at a time, several times a month, in a way that avoided banks running due diligence reports and detection by law enforcement. So that means he always preyed on financially weak people who were in desperate need of money.
And she thought that was very normal because it's LA and it's the nightlife. She's very young and she needs the money desperately. And this monster knows exactly how to exploit her vulnerability. This job was supposed to be...
So does that mean the celebrities who have been allegedly named in the documents did the same things? This is even more shocking when you hear the names you least expected to have in it. The convicted S-offender maintained a vast social and professional network. While he kept his client list under wraps, he often bragged about his elite social circle, which included presidents and Hollywood stars. Epstein invited celebrities, political top-notch, and academics to his private island and luxury homes. He offered celebrities rides on his private jet. He and his girlfriend, the socialite Ghislaine Maxwell, hung out with princes and supermodels. Now, the newly released court records have revved up interest again in the big names who associated with Epstein and Maxwell. Many of those people have never been accused of any wrongdoing, but have nonetheless become the subject of a whirlwind of conspiracy theories. On January 3, 2024, the names of more than 170 Jeffrey Epstein associates were revealed in unsealed court documents. In addition to known connections like Bill Clinton and Prince Andrew, the documents named magician David Copperfield and shed light on Epstein's relationship with hairstylist Frederick Fekkai. Epstein, Clinton, Spacey, and Tucker spent a week in 2002 touring AIDS project sites in South Africa, Nigeria, Ghana, Rwanda, and Mozambique for the Clinton Foundation New York Magazine reported. Spacey was also charged with SA, but in December 2019, the New York Times reported that the case had been dropped by the plaintiff's estate. The plaintiff, a 62-year-old massage therapist, had died that September. When Spacey testified in another SA case against him in October 2022, he confirmed flying on Epstein's plane. I was now being talked about as if I knew Jeffrey Epstein, as though I was some important and powerful friend of his, and because I'd been on this airplane, I had actually flown to what was being called P Island, Spacey testified, according to Law and Crime. And while it is true that I met Jeffrey Epstein on that trip, I never saw him again, and I have never been to any island. Tucker said in a 2021 interview with All Urban Central that he was on the trip with Clinton, but didn't know they were on Epstein's private plane. A New York Times reporter said Epstein told him that Elon Musk had sought him out to help manage the trouble he had gotten into with the SEC in 2018. Epstein told reporter James B. Stewart that he had promised to keep his work for Tesla private because of his prior conviction. Epstein also warned that both Musk and Tesla would deny their connection to Epstein if it ever became public, the Times reported. In a statement to Insider in August 2019, a spokesperson for Musk denied Epstein's claims of having served as an advisor to the CEO. Musk and Maxwell were photographed at an Oscars after-party hosted by former Vanity Fair editor Graydon Carter on March 2, 2014 in West Hollywood. The same Musk spokesperson told Insider that Ghislaine simply inserted herself behind him in a photo he was posing for without his knowledge.
Tesla CEO Elon Musk has been subpoenaed by the US Virgin Islands. The American territory wants Musk to hand over documents relating to the late Jeffrey Epstein.
Musk, Epstein, and Meta CEO Mark Zuckerberg were all guests at a dinner that LinkedIn co-founder Reid Hoffman hosted sometime after Epstein was released from jail in 2008, Vanity Fair reported in 2019. Ben LeBolt, a spokesperson for Zuckerberg, told Insider it was the only time Zuckerberg and Epstein met. Mark met Epstein in passing one time at a dinner honoring scientists that was not organized by Epstein, LeBolt said in the statement. Mark did not communicate with Epstein again following the dinner. And you will be shocked to know that magician David Copperfield was named in court documents related to Epstein's S-ring, unsealed on January 3, 2024. In a 2016 deposition, Johanna Schoberg, a victim of Epstein, said she met Copperfield at Epstein's house, where he performed tricks during a dinner. The magician seemed to be a friend of Epstein, Schoberg said, and asked her if she was aware that girls were getting paid to find other girls. She added that Sarah Kellen, who worked for Epstein and Maxwell, and another girl were also present. She seemed young to me, Schoberg said about the other girl. I thought she could be younger than college age, but I had to assume for my own sanity that she was a daughter of one of his friends. The documents unsealed on January 3, 2024, shed new light on Epstein's relationship with celebrity hairstylist and entrepreneur Frederick Fekkai. Epstein accuser Sjoberg said in a 2016 deposition that while massaging Epstein, she heard Epstein call someone and say, "Fekai is in Hawaii. Can we find some girls for him?" Fekai was previously known to have a relationship with Epstein, who paid for his assistants to have appointments with the stylist. In 2019, the Daily Beast reported that Fekai's stylists would make house calls to Epstein's Palm Beach mansion, and that Fekai had flown on Epstein's private plane with Ghislaine Maxwell. Kate Blanchett, Leonardo DiCaprio, and Bruce Willis are among the celebrities whose names were mentioned in the testimony of Epstein accuser Johanna Sjoberg, who said the late financier bragged about them while name-dropping, although no evidence was provided that the stars even knew him. The alleged victim was asked if she had met Cameron Diaz, to which she responded no. In late pop star Michael Jackson's case, Sjoberg claimed that she once met the musician at Epstein's home in Palm Beach, Florida. Sjoberg said that she did not massage Jackson, as she was tasked with doing for Epstein. Lawyer Brad Edwards, who has litigated against Epstein and his associates, wrote about Jackson's visit in his 2020 book, Relentless Pursuit: My Fight for the Victims of Jeffrey Epstein. For a young woman like Johanna, the fact that there were stars who were friends with Jeffrey and Ghislaine was an attractive bonus of the job, Edwards wrote. Even the king of pop himself, Michael Jackson, had been enough of an Epstein acquaintance to pay him a visit in Palm Beach while Johanna was working there. Giuffre has alleged that Maxwell arranged for the then 17-year-old to have S with Epstein and other prominent men, including Prince Andrew. The British royal has denied the allegations and settled with Giuffre out of court in February 2022. In a 2019 YouTube interview, supermodel Naomi Campbell addressed her first meeting with Epstein in 2001, stating, "Yes, I knew him. I was introduced to him on my 31st birthday by my ex-boyfriend Flavio Briatore. He was always front and center at Victoria's Secret shows. Denying any knowledge of Epstein's crimes, she went on, what he's done is indefensible. And when I had heard what he had done, it sickened me to my stomach just like everybody else, because I've had my fair share of predators, and thank God I had people around me that protected me from this. Right now I stand with the victims. They're scarred for life. I find it extraordinary that of all the hundreds of thousands of people that I've stood next to take a picture at a public event, they've only chosen these few," she continued. Pointing out how any association with Epstein has led to an assumption of guilt by much of the public, Campbell said, "The frightening conclusion here is that if the negative action of your neighbor, colleague, or even an associate can somehow make you guilty too, simply by association, then we indeed live in very worrying times. This affects us all. It's wrong, it's unfair, and it must be stopped." In recent years, a faction of social media users have pushed the theory that several celebrities and public figures, often known to be Democrats, flew to Epstein's private Caribbean island, Little St. James. Epstein's private jet, which was used to transport guests to the island, was derisively called the Lolita Express by certain media outlets following allegations that it was used to fly underage girls to some of the late financier's properties.
Referenced, former President Bill Clinton is one of the biggest names that you will recognize, and the documents detail that he took 4 trips on Epstein's private plane in the early 2000s.
Following Epstein's death, lists have been shared on social media purporting to show the high-profile people who had visited the island, which is located east of Puerto Rico in the U.S. Virgin Islands. A number of stars were erroneously added to the mix of Epstein's guests by some social media users who have falsely targeted a number of celebrities as part of an apparent campaign to link them to Epstein's crimes, but speculate that if their names are in the list, there must be some connection to it. Like if we talk about Oprah Winfrey, she has been accused of numerous CT crimes in the past. The famous Bazaar School is the perfect example of it. Moreover, the situation has gotten more tangled when recently some creepy and weird stuff got exposed from Epstein's house. And to add fuel, Kanye West has accused Diddy of leaking everything. Kanye Ye West dropped a bombshell years ago, claiming Diddy was a Fed, just like how Epstein was allegedly working for Mossad. He famously said, "The reason you got to talk is because you took the deal, you F Fed." Rumors are now swirling that Diddy's role went beyond the music industry and involved gathering dirt on celebrities and wealthy individuals engaging in shady, immoral activities at these eerie parties. If true, this would mean Diddy was part of a covert operation to collect incriminating information on the elite. The real question is, which intelligence agencies did Diddy work for? Jay-Z, Tom Hanks, Jimmy Kimmel, Prince Harry, Russell Simmons, LeBron James, and Jamie Foxx all partied with Diddy, but none have been accused of wrongdoing yet. If Diddy was indeed surveilling these high-profile figures, it raises alarming questions about the true extent of his activities and the agencies behind them. However, there's a catch. The possibility that the FBI or other intelligence agencies might cover up these surveillance recordings to protect high-profile individuals cannot be ignored. If Diddy was indeed collecting this incriminating information, why haven't we seen any repercussions yet? Is there a bigger conspiracy at play, with intelligence agencies using these celebrities as pawns in a larger game? The silence and lack of visible consequences suggest a deeply entrenched system of secrecy and corruption. If Diddy was working for an intelligence agency, the implications are staggering. The potential cover-up by the FBI or other agencies hints at a story much larger than what the public sees. These celebrities might be in deep trouble, but the truth might be buried under layers of secrecy and corruption. The public deserves to know the real extent of these activities and the true roles played by those involved. The revelations, if ever fully uncovered, could fundamentally alter our understanding of power, fame, and the lengths to which the elite will go to protect their interests. That's it for today. See you in the next video. Until then, goodbye.